Yeah, today's class we will discuss about design communication. So in the this is basically from the third module. So first module it was about design process. Second module it was about design thinking approach, and the third module today we begin with design communication. So what is design communications? In the with the knowledge gained from the first and second modules, we are able to somehow design a product. So after designing this, how to communicate that, or how communication is important, how design communication is important, because we design something or the design team design something, so that has to be finally developed, that has to be finally manufactured, isn't it? You design a watch and your design goes to the manufacturing team and they work on the design and they make or manufacture the product. So it is important that you properly communicate the design. So if there is any mistake in the design or any flaw, any error in the design, so definitely that will be there in the final product, or in the final product. Or you wanted something and but you couldn't communicate that through proper design document, even then, and it might result in a faulty product. So design communication, or communicating the design properly, is very important in the design and development stage. And today we give importance to how to communicate designs graphically. So graphically means we use sketches and drawings. So we'll try to understand the difference between sketches and drawing. Then we'll also see different types of sketches and types of drawings, and how these sketches and drawings can be used in the manufacture or making of final product. Okay, so these are the learning objectives of today's class. So we'll continue. Communicate effectively is a critical skill for engineers. Engineers communicate through oral presentations and through written documents and technical drawings. So one aspect of communication is communication with the client. So when defining the design problem, while defining the design problem, we will have to communicate with the clients, because we take the feedback and we give them some diagram, some drawing, and we take the feedback on that. Then we finally improve. And while working through the design process, that is what design process. When we work through, we communicate with the clients, and when portraying the final design, obviously we have drawn a diagram, a design diagram, maybe a design for a house or a building, so that we will show the client, isn't it? So when portraying the final design in the standardized detailed drawing, so that it can be built. Also, when these building models or prototypes to demonstrate or evaluate the design's effectiveness. So engineering sketches and drawings, so speak to many audiences in the sense, so you have a diagram, you have a design sketch, you have a design drawing, and that can be shown to many people, isn't it? So drawing is very important in design, because a lot of information is created and transmitted in drawing process. Design drawings include sketches, freehand drawing. Freehand drawing means the drawing which you write, which you draw through your hand without using any tools. And computer-aided design, CAD models that extend from simple drawings through elaborate solid models, three-dimensional models, three-dimensional animation models that include color and perspective. So different types of drawings are possible. So a little bit of difference between drawing and sketches. So what is drawing? Drawing can simply be defined as marking on a surface. Sketches are typically created as preliminary drawings in order to prepare for a more finished work of art. So sketches are preliminary drawing. Okay. So sketches are typically created with quick marks and are usually lacking some of the details that a finished drawing may have. So sketches and drawing is the finished product, finished diagram. Sketches, preliminary drawing. So that is the difference. Okay, sketch, the difference between sketch and drawing. Drawing is the final. So when you draw the design of a wristwatch, the final diagram of the wristwatch with every minute detail, manufacturing specifications, that is called a drawing. So before that, maybe in the prototype you may have some sketches. Whatever you draw in the initial stage of the design are called sketch, and the final drawing or final diagram, design diagram, is called a drawing. Clear that the difference between Sketches and drawing. Don't confuse what is sketch and what is drawing. Did you understand? Sketch is the preliminary drawing. So drawing is the process of putting marks on a paper. These marks include both sketches and marginalia. So what is marginalia? So that is the process of writing something, some notes in the margins. Okay, when you write some notes, some annotations in the margin, that is called a marginalia. Sketches are of objects and their associated functions. Marginalia includes notes in text form, in list, dimensions, and calculations. So we mark something. So we have a diagram. In the margin, we mark, okay, dimension is this, some calculation is this, some details this. Okay. Putting notes next to a sketch is a powerful way to organize information. Figure 9.1, that's in the next slide, illustrates some of these features in a sketch made by a designer working on the packaging for a battery powered. So there is a textbook for this module. I will share the textbook with you, and you must read this chapter. So these diagrams are taken from the textbook itself. So this is the diagram. So what is this diagram? No, you don't give the detail. Please try to understand what this diagram is and how what are the conventions used to draw this diagram, and what are the details included in the diagram. That's all. The designer has written down some manufacturing notes adjacent to the drawing of the spring. So this is actually packaging for a battery powered computer clock. You have a computer clock and the layout of that. And here what you have to see is not how clear and neat the sketch is, and that the notes are in easy to read block letters. So see this diagram. So what is a suggested way of writing this description? Through using block letters, isn't it? So use block letters wherever possible. So this is the design information adjacent to a sketch of the designed object. Not how clear and neat this sketch is, and that the notes are in easy to read block letters. So we must adopt this using block letters wherever possible. So this battery specifications, nickel plated, their length, breadth, all those details they have shown, connections, connectivity, some dimension, the size, width, all details they have clearly mentioned. So in such an annotated sketch, the designer can provide information about her assumptions, analysis that might be done, or even about how the device will be fabricated. Sketches and drawings are essential to engineering design. In brief, graphic images are used to communicate with other designers, the client, and the manufacturing team. Isn't it? We also need to communicate with the manufacturing team so that they can finally manufacture. So sketches and drawings, what are the uses? Serve as a launching pad for a brand new design. Support the analysis of a design as it evolves. Simulate the behavior or performance of a design. Record the shape or geometry of a design. Communicate design ideas among designers. Ensure that a design is complete. Communicate the final design to the manufacturing specialist. So these are the uses. In all these stages, we use design. So sketching, details of sketching. Sketching is a powerful tool in design because it enables us to convey our design ideas to others quickly and concisely. There are several types of sketches. So look at this diagram. There you can see four sketches of the same object: A, B, C, and D. And the style of drawing the first sketch is called orthographic sketch. Orthographic sketch, and B is called axonometric sketch, C is called oblique sketch, D is called perspective sketch. So what is orthographic sketch? Orthographic sketch lay out the front, right, and top views of a part. Front, look at that, front, right, and top views. Okay. Now axonometric sketch. Start with an axis, typically a vertical line with the two lines 30 degrees from the horizontal. See, the same object tilted. You have studied this engineering graphics. So you start with a vertical line that is in the middle, then two lines parallel, 30 degree with 30 degree to the horizontal axis. So that 30 degrees marked there, you can see that. And this axis forms the corner of the part. The object is then blocked in using light lines with the overall size first. Then vertical lines are darkened. These are, you can read. All lines in these sketches are either vertical or parallel to one of the lines. Third one is oblique sketch. What is oblique sketch? Which is shown in C. Or what is oblique sketch? Oblique sketches are probably most common type of quick sketch. The front view is blocked in roughly first, depth lines are then added, and details such as rounded edges are added last. Last one is perspective sketch. Last one is perspective sketch. So relation between oblique and perspective. So perspective, how perspective is different? Perspectives sketches are similar to oblique sketches in that the front view is blocked in first. Then a vanishing point is chosen and projection lines are drawn from the points on the object to the vanishing point. The depth of the part is then blocked using projection lines. Finally, as in other sketches, details are added to the part. These sketches serve as informational starting points for other design activities, for example, building physical models, because based on this design, building the model or building the prototype, the actual manufacturing begins. So this design models, design sketches are very important. That has to be clear and with all the precise details. These quick sketches can also be enhanced if we pay attention to their proportions and if we annotate them. So proportion control, what do you mean by proportion control? Proportion control means what is the size, what is the width, all those things. It is extremely useful to show the relative size of parts, components, or features in a sketch. It is generally a good idea to sketch designs on a graph paper because it is easier to control those relative sizes using the graph paper's grid without having to make measurements with a ruler. So proportion you can. So when you have a design sketch, if you draw the sketch on a graph paper, the proportion, the size proportion will be clear to the manufacturer. So they can go ahead with the manufacturing. Annotation, clear, easily read notes on sketches are tremendously useful in conveying the meaning behind the sketches. So you have a sketch and you can use some annotations. So as we have seen in the first diagram, it includes a lot of annotations. We should make those annotations as clear and and easy to read as possible. For example, it is generally useful to follow the familiar architectural style of using evenly spaced block letters. They are generally much clearer than cursive scribbles, isn't it? So here in this diagram, we have used this evenly spaced block letters, isn't it? They are actually serving as the annotations. Details, additional details, whatever details we would like to convey to the manufacturing team, that we can include in the diagram, include in the sketch. So we are looking at different sketches. Okay. So evenly spaced block letters are highly recommended, and they are generally much clearer than cursive scribbles. Okay, it should be clear, drawn proportionately, and well annotated using the block lettering just suggested. So next figure shows two oblique sketches taken. So this is a reference taken from the report of students working on some Danbury arm support project. So artificial arm they are trying to milk. They are actually working on a design project of this artificial arm. The name is Danbury arm, and this example is taken to show that they have not followed the convention and all. So they have used a handwritten cursive scribble way of writing these annotations and all. So this is difficult to read from this. So this example, this diagram I have included to show that your sketch should not be following these conventions, should not be following this style, these two diagrams. They have not used the block letters neatly written, isn't it? So this is something we should avoid. These detailed design sketches have a rough visual appeal, and they are difficult to understand. Lettering is uneven and hard to read in places. So block lettering is much easier to read and perhaps more impressive. So this is not the way we have to draw sketches. So fabrication specification, the several forms of engineering drawing. So This probably you can read. And our design should be complete, unambiguous, clear, and readily understood. How do we ensure that the design as built will be exactly the design that we designed? So that is very important. We have to ensure that the design which is going to be built is exactly the design, exactly something that we designed. We must ensure that our drawings are both appropriate to our design and prepared in accordance with relevant engineering practices and standards. So certain engineering practices and standards we should use in diagrams. So design drawings, now we come to the design drawing, isn't it? Design sketches over, now design drawing. So different types of design drawing: layout drawings, detailed drawing, assembly drawing. So what are layout drawing? Layout drawings are working drawings that show major parts or components of a device and their relationship. This is the layout drawing. Okay. This is the layout drawing that has been drawn to scale, does not show. Okay. They are usually drawn to scale, do not show tolerances. So what is tolerances? Tolerance is some variation in the size. Say for example, you are you are designing as or some product, say some screws, say for example, some screws, some nails. So all the nails or all the screws in that pack may not be exactly same, isn't it? But they will have some tolerance possible. Listen, some millimeter difference it is allowed. So that is what tolerance is. So this diagram, what it is, you don't worry about. So the thing is, this is a layout drawing. Their drawings are drawn with the major parts or components of a device and their relationships. Okay, that's all. Now, detailed drawings show the individual parts or components of a device and their relationship. These drawings must show tolerance. So in the detailed drawings, we include tolerances, and they must also specify materials and any special processing requirements. We will identify, we will highlight the type of material to be used, and the details we will include in the detailed drawings. Detailed drawings are drawn in conformance with the existing standards and are exchanged only when it is essential. So this is a detailed drawing including tolerances and the type of material used. So this is how a detailed drawing should be. Unlike a layout diagram, layout drawing will not have tolerances and type of materials used, but detailed drawing will have all the details related with the design. Next one is assembly drawings. Assembly drawings show how individual parts or components of a device fit together. We identify components by part numbers or entries on an attached bill of materials. So this is an assembly drawing, shows how individual parts of an automobile fit together. So this is the parts of an automobile and how the different parts fit together. So assembly, actually, we are assembling different parts. So this assembly diagram shows the assembly of individual components, and their individual parts are numbered with rounded numbers. So what is what they are actually part numbers or entries on an attached bill of materials. You will probably have a bill of materials, and in the bill of material you will have certain numbers, and the same number you will write on the assembly drawings also. So these are assembly drawings. So we have seen layout diagram, detailed layout drawing, detailed drawing, and assembly drawing. Then tolerances and standards. So tolerance define the permissible ranges of variation in critical or sensitive dimension, isn't it? As I told, no, what is a variation possible in the length, in the breadth, isn't it? As a practical matter, it is impossible to make any two objects exactly the same. They may appear, two screws may appear to be the same because of our limited ability to distinguish differences at extremely small or fine resolution. We are unable to distinguish. We are unable to make out the difference. That is why they look two things appear to be same, but they are actually not the same. So that permissible range of variation in critical dimension is called tolerance. The values chosen for tolerance on a specific part are often driven by the function of that part and also by the manufacturing process available. Standards explicitly articulate the best current engineering practices. Say, for example, we know ANSI standard, American National Standards Institute, ANSI standard, or IEEE standard, ASME standard, ASME, American Society of Mechanical Engineers. So while designing with the mechanical parts, they follow the standard of ASME, especially in computer science and all, we follow ANSI and IEEE standard, isn't it? So standards explicitly articulate the best current engineering practices in routine which need to be followed by people designing these items. So little bit of details of detailed drawings. Detailed drawings are used to communicate the details of a design to the manufacturer or machinist. They must contain as much information as possible while being as clear as possible. Engineers and machinists have developed a system of standard symbols and conventions. So they are called geometric dimensioning and tolerancing, GD and T. What is GD and T? Geometric dimensioning and tolerancing. That is the expansion. What is it? That is the system of standard symbols and conventions. So there will be certain symbols, there will be certain conventions. So we will follow these standards of GD and T in the detailed drawings. Detailed design should ensure that the maker would fabricate exactly what we want. There are certain essential components that every drawing must have to ensure that it is interpreted as it is intended. So what are the details? What are the elements, components included in the detailed design so that it is interpreted as it is intended? So these components include standard drawing views, standard symbols to indicate particular items, clear lettering, clear steady lines, appropriate notes, a title on the drawing, the designer's initials, who has designed it, and the date it was drawn, dimensions and units and permissible variations and or tolerances. All these details should be there in the detailed design. So this is an example of a detailed drawing of the handle of a screwdriver. So look at that, and we can identify all these details are there, isn't it? So you don't worry about the details, how it is written, what are the other details. Just focus on that the components should be present in the detailed design. Okay. These are all for the design of mechanical parts. For computer science, we don't use this kind of things, isn't it? So this figure displays a technical drawing that conforms to the GD&T system and ASME standards. It shows a screwdriver handle that Harvey Mudd students manufacture as part of their introductory design course. And what we have to note the descriptive title given, the date on the drawing, and also the designer's initials. All those details are given there. In addition, a note was included to specify the material as cast acrylic. So that screwdriver has to be made with cast acrylic material that is written, and the finish should be polished. Dimensions and tolerances specified in accordance with GD&T standard. What is GD&T? Geometric dimensioning and tolerancing. The various symbols that appear on the drawing are part of the GD&T language. Fabrication specification properties. So the fabrication specification mentioned in the design, detailed design should be unambiguous. That means the role and place of each and every component and part must be unmistakable, complete. That is comprehensive and entire in the scope. Transparent, that is, it should be readily understood by the manufacturer or fabricator. Remember that design must perform just as the designer intended, because the designers may not be around to catch errors or to make suggestions. Also, the maker cannot turn around to seek clarification or ask on-the-spot questions, because once the design is given to the manufacturing team, the design team is not there. So they cannot ask on-the-spot questions, or they cannot have clarification while the manufacturing process is on, isn't it? So that is why the design must be having these properties: unambiguous, it should be complete, it should be transparent, so that the manufacturing team is having no doubt. They are crystal clear with the requirements and specifications in the design, because all the specifications are with GD&T standard or ASME standard, and everything is mentioned in the detailed design with conventional methods. So manufacturing is quite easy, and that is why we make sure that the manufacturing team manufactures the object that we exactly designed. So this fabrication specifications include physical dimensions, operating conditions, operating parameters, maintenance and life cycle requirements, reliability requirements, packaging and shipping requirements, external markings, or unusual or special needs. Example, must use synthetic motor oil or whatever in some parts. So different ways of writing fabrication specifications. Now, what are the different ways of writing fabrication specifications? So there are three ways. First one is prescriptive fabrication specification. When we specify a particular part and its number in the vendor's catalog, we are writing a prescriptive fabrication specification. So actually we are designing. So in the design, we are fabrication, how it should be manufactured. Say, what is the component to be used? Say, for example, what is a screwdriver? What is a screw? What is the what if you manufacture some IC chip or something like that? What is the chip to be used? What is the diode to be used? What is the resistor to be used? What is the capacitor to be used? So if we specify a particular part and its number in a vendor's catalog, so we have a vendor's catalog there, isn't it? That is there with the designer and manufacturer. So using the number in the vendor's catalog, if you specify, okay, part number 5, so that is very clear. Part number 5, because that is there in the vendor's catalog. So when the designer say part number 5, manufacturer also understand that it is part number 5 in the vendor's catalog. So that is called the prescriptive fabrication specification. Second one is procedural fabrication specification. So when we specify a class of devices that do certain things, we are presenting a procedural fabrication. Instead of specifying a specific number, we say that, okay, in the range of, say, 5 to 10 micro ohms. So you can use any product within that range, isn't it? Within that class of device. So that is called procedural fabrication. Any IC which conform, any IC which provides this output, anything which provides this much of current as an output, that component can be used. So that we leave to the manufacturer. Then manufacturer can select anyone out of that class of devices. So that is called a procedural fabrication specification. There we do not prescribe actually what is the exact product to be used, exact part to be used. So we are leaving it to the manufacturer to select from a class of devices. That is called the procedural fabrication. Third one is performance fabrication specification. So there we leave it up to the supplier or the fabricator to insert something that achieves a certain function to a specified level. We are giving performance fabrication specification. We don't specify the product. So we are actually specifying a function. So it must achieve this function. It must achieve this amplification. It must achieve this much filtering. So then the supplier or vendor will use whatever he finds appropriate. So that is called a performance fabrication specification. So these are the fabrication specifications. So this is a summary of today's class. Different engineering disciplines have different needs and they use specific approaches. As designers, see, for computer science, we know what are the design diagrams, this kind of sketches we don't generally use. Say, for example, in the last semester, you have developed so many programs. So what was the design diagram? You have used flowcharts. Flowchart is a design diagram, isn't it? Even algorithm also a design diagram, you can say, isn't it? So when you study database and all in higher semesters, you will probably understand that there are ER diagram, entity relationship diagrams that are used in computer science, or data flow diagrams, isn't it? Data flow diagram. When you design a website, when you design a software, data flow diagram, workflow diagram, or block diagram of a system where we will use individual parts. Say, for example, a client server system. Client is one block, server is one block. Client communicates with the server. So block diagrams. So these are the diagrams which we will use in computer science. So as designers, we must be sure that while there are habits and styles of thought that are common to the design enterprise, there are also practices and standards that are unique to each discipline. There are certain things, certain diagrams, certain graphical design which are suitable in computer science, and it is our responsibility to learn and use them wisely. So examples are entity relationship diagrams, flow charts, data flow diagrams, workflow diagrams, and block diagrams. These are all diagrams which are used in the computer science domain to convey our designs to the developer, isn't it? So that's all for today. So it's exactly 10. So I'll try to wind up. So I hope this is clear. Is that clear to all of you?